Hello, today we're going to be walking through the steps for Exam 2. So the first task asks us to show the IP address of our local machine and the DigitalOcean VM that we're going to be working with. So I have my command prompt pulled up here. I know it says Nathan. I'm on my husband's computer at the moment. So if I type in ipconfig here, it's going to give me my local IP address. So that's going to be this first number, 192.168.0.106. Next, for the DigitalOcean VM IP address, I'm going to go and log into my DigitalOcean account here via PuTTY. And again, we kind of saw it at the top before it logged me in, but here it is again, 159.89.142.43. So the next task is to upload a file from my local machine to DigitalOcean. So for this, I'm going to be using FileZilla. I'm going to be moving a picture file from my local drive, which you can see here on the left. I'm going to be moving that to my DigitalOcean, which we've not signed into yet, but it's going to appear here on the right. So let's go ahead and connect to that. I'm going to be using that same IP address that we saw just moments ago, 159.89.142.43. I'm going to go ahead and use that same username and password with port 22. So once I do that, it's going to tell me once it was successful. I see that here, that it was successful. I also see that popping up here on the right hand side showing me that I'm connected. So so far so good, but next we need to copy that file. But before we do that, we do need to go into Wireshark and go ahead and start another capture. I don't need any of the other things that I've done so far, so go ahead and start that. Go back to FileZilla. I'm going to find that file that I want to copy over. I'm going to be moving this pup JPEG file. It's going to click, drag it, drop it over here. Wait for it to make sure that it completes all the way down here in the bottom left-ish. I see that it was transferred successfully, so I'm going to go back into Wireshark, go ahead and stop that capture. Now that the packets have been captured, let's go ahead and analyze. So I'm going to select, if I look at my source, if we remember, my local is 192.168.0.106, and my destination was going to be that DigitalOcean VM of 159.89.142.43. So let's go ahead and actually scroll all the way back up here. So I see this SYN, my SYNAC and ACK showing that handshake, very important in the beginning. But let's go ahead and go to Statistics, TCP stream graphs. The first one we're going to take a look at is the time sequence Stevens report. So this graph is going to show all sequence numbers, and each dot, of course, is going to represent a transmission. That's going to be represented over time, which is shown down here at the bottom. If we zoom in to some of the ones that looks like, we can see where those packets were dropped, and we got some duplicate acknowledgments. We can see that it dropped down here to the sequence number, dropped all the way back down here to this 904,000. We started retransmitting over time between within 2 seconds. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but within that 2-second mark, it looks like we did do a lot of retransmitting here. So we're going to be looking at this again, but a little different scenario. So what I'm going to do is make sure I get all of the chart in one view here. I'm actually going to take a snippet of this because I want to be able to compare it to what we're going to be looking at a little bit later. So I'm actually going to do similar things. Next thing we are going to look at is the throughput chart. And this is going to be reviewing the rate of data that's being transferred. This is going to include the header, the payload, any retransmissions. We can see that it jumps up here pretty high, but for the most part staying below 10,000, or maybe right close to that 10,000 line. So same thing, I'm going to go ahead and take a snippet of this chart, go ahead and paste it over here in my Word document so I have that. Last but not least, we're going to take a look at the RTT, or the round trip time. This is going to be represented in milliseconds, which I can see here on the left hand side. Again, looks like got pretty high here, almost at the 2.3-ish mark in seconds, but for the most part staying between 0 and 200 milliseconds. It actually looks like it was probably at 100 milliseconds or below. So quick snippet of this, going to go ahead and send it back to my Word document, and then I can go ahead and close my snipping tool from here. So finally, we are going to look at these charts again, but we're going to change our DigitalOcean VM to discard 5% of the incoming packets. So to do this, we will first need to go back into PuTTY, and we're going to have to tell the VM to discard 5% of these incoming packets, and we're going to enter a random packet loss command. So for that, I'm going to go ahead and put that in here now. So pound tcq disk add eth0 KSwindler and etem loss, and then that 5% here at the end to make sure that we are losing or discarding 5% of those packets. So to prep for this, we do need to go back into FireZilla and go ahead and take out or delete that puppy JPEG that I moved in there earlier. That way we're looking at more or less apples to apples and can see more of a real comparison of what we're going to be looking at. So I went ahead and removed it. So now what we need to do is go back into Wireshark. Oops, go and close that. I'm going to start a new capture. I'm going to continue without saving because I don't need those changes anymore. I'm going to go back into FileZilla, find this puppy JPEG again, copy it over here. Keep an eye on it down here to make sure that it's successful. Again, I get the notification that it was successfully transferred, so I can come back into Wireshark. Go ahead and stop that capture. So let's take a look at these charts again. So I need to select something that's going from my local, the 106 to the 43. I'm going to go ahead and go to Statistics, TCP Stream Graphs, and let's look at the time sequence Stevens report again. So let's see. So again, this is going to be losing 5% of those packets. So if I bring my Word document up and I kind of do it side by side, this a little bit bigger so we can see the difference, right? So we can see that it kind of has the same curve, but we definitely see a lot more time here where there were no transmissions. Right here specifically is a really large one, almost roughly maybe a half a second where there was nothing going on. So we definitely see a lot more drops throughout the entire transmission here. So next, we're going to take a look at that throughput, see how that changed with dropping that 5% of packets. Again, similar curve, but we can definitely see that that the time was a lot different. These charts look somewhat similar, but we are still losing approximately 5% of those packets. Last but not least, we're going to take a look at that RTT count or chart. Let's go ahead and go down here. Here we can definitely see a lot more lines here, and maybe this is like the early 2.1, 2.2 seconds. So lots of drops here. Really, even if I zoom in, it's really hard to see that because then I have to scroll all the way up and then I have to scroll all the way down. So either way, we can definitely see that there was something else going on here, that there was a lot more RTTs that were up here than versus over here when we noticed it when we were sending everything normally without that 5% packet loss. So that concludes the video. Thanks for watching, and I hope I did everything well enough to get a good score on this exam.